Welcome to the Heritage Show, where we explore the healing, empowerment, and resilience of Asian women. I'm your host, Ling, a wellness and resilience coach. In each episode, I chat with an amazing woman who is conquering challenges, embracing her unique identity, and living life on her own terms. Get ready for inspiring stories, laughs, and powerful aha moments. Grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive in. Today, we have a special guest, Shreeya Giri, founder and managing director of Happy Minds, an inclusive mental health platform for Nepali people worldwide. During COVID-19 pandemic, Shreeya saw the mental health gap and created Happy Minds to raise awareness and provide counseling support. Since April 2021, Shreeya and her team have reached over 57,000 Nepali individuals across 7 provinces and 27 nations, offering campaigns on mental health and workplace well-being. Their impactful work has earned numerous awards, and Shreeya herself has been recognized by Forbes as one of the 30 under 30 from Asia. On today's episode, we will discuss Shreeya's mission, her insights on overcoming mental health challenges, her entrepreneurial journey, and her growth as a female founder. So let's dive in. Hello, Shreeya. Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome to the Heritage Show. It's really a pleasure to have you here with
Thank you
us.
for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And to start with, I'm really curious to know what is your mission and what are the impact are you trying to make in this world?
My mission is the purpose of my living, which is to create a sense of belongingness for those people around the world in times of crisis and challenges. So mostly leaning in towards mental health and psychological safety. I want to be a part and create a community where people can feel that they belong, even if at times they don't find anyone around them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. As you mentioned this keyword, right? Belonging. In essence, everyone is looking to have the feeling of belonging. And I wonder, what was the connection with you? What was the story that inspired you to have found Happy Minds?
Well, it goes back to late 2020 when we were a part of COVID-19 pandemic. I was happily in my international student era, residing in London, doing quite fine with my work life and social life in every aspect. But when the COVID started and we were stuck inside our rooms, I was very quick to lose that sense of belonging, mostly because my mental health started degrading and I felt like nobody could understand me. And when there was an instance where I wanted to be understood, I struggled to get the help. So I reached out to NHS. Their wait time was 7 months, and I reached out to my own community, Nepali mental health professionals, and there seems to have been a big gap in mental health professionals being available on social media or online. So I felt like, and now that I've experienced the mental health gap myself, me prioritizing my own well-being, I did return home just because of this. But I wanted to make sure that no one else goes through this or no one else feels this, the void, the sense that you are left alone. So I went ahead to create a community for myself just to make sure no one else feels left alone, just like I did then.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. As you mentioned, this waiting time, even in countries like Germany, here a lot of people also had experienced mental health challenges, and it's also very challenging to find mental health support, psychologists, and there's always a long waiting list. So coming back to you, you mentioned that you actually had quite a comfortable life living in London. I wonder, what was that perhaps pivotal moment help you make that decision of going back to your home country and started to build Happy Minds, because as the heritage show is to showcase the stories of women who have lived abroad and what they had learned living abroad.
Well, for me, I think I was rather living a very successful life, success in a place where it's very difficult for an international student to get a nice, stable, reputed, respected job. And
Mm-hmm.
I was working something that went alongside and complemented what I was studying. I was quite happy with what I was doing. So never had I ever thought I would ever be in a stance where I would rather choose to come back home, Nepal, and leave all that behind, because I think I chased that life for a very long time. But there was a stance where, once your well-being starts degrading, and we were in pandemic, meaning you just never knew when was this going to end. It was also maybe a negative pattern of thinking that yelled out loud, "Is this the it? I've worked so hard and I've reached here, but at the end of the day, when I see my parents being worried and not doing well, I felt so hopeless and powerless, And also on the times where I wanted to be held, when I felt the loneliest, I didn't have anyone around me. So no amount of money then could ever be enough for me to come out of loneliness. So I think that
Yeah,
was the main motivation for me to come back home, because everything aside, and your mental health, your sense of belongingness, your community, your parents, your friends, they weigh much higher than any pay scale or any reputed companies, their packages, or literally anything else.
absolutely. This coming back again to the belonging that you mentioned earlier, right? The sense of being supported, being held, as you said. Um, Talking about the mental health topic back home in Nepal, I recalled my experience traveling in Nepal more than a decade ago with a few friends of mine, climbing the Annapurna track. It was really amazing view, beautiful people. My impression back then was people there are really happy, really welcoming. But in reality, actually, based on data, 15 to 20% of people in Nepal experience mental health conditions and challenges. So looking at this data, when you founded Happy Minds, how do you overcome these challenges and stigmas around the mental health topic, especially considering the culture elements there?
I think rightfully mentioned that a lot of the times when you just look around, it just seems as if everyone is so happy, close knitted. How could anyone ever have any sort of mental health challenges in a community like Nepal? But if you just look a little closer, I see it that maybe people don't know what is it that they're going through. Hence why we assume that there are no mental health challenges amongst the communities. So number one thing that I'm battling with is stigmatization and lack of awareness on mental health itself. I'm not going to say it's been very easy, because to speak about mental health in a way where the conversation is welcomed in the community is equally very challenging, especially when it's coming from a young female, where
Yeah.
there's a lack of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Especially also from someone who doesn't come from the psychology background. So, everything aside, I know that the fight of advocating for mental health, the fight of encouraging people to come forward and seek support is always worth it. So we find our own ways. We try to see what language is it that they understand if we were to talk about mental health. And we adapt to that, because the belongingness, the inclusivity, that lens is still applicable here as well. It's not that probably that they don't want to hear about how to come out of anxiety or how to stop overthinking. It's just they don't know what is it when they're experiencing it in their body and mind, and what might be the right way to be open to hearing to someone else who's giving you a different perspective. So it's all about being open, to also accepting that someone might be resenting towards your idea, but not taking that personally. So being open to adapting to your ways of facilitating and advertising and marketing and making people aware to speak their language. So it's been difficult, but the fight has been worth it.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear that, especially when you talk about tailor the language, the approach to local people, to people that might not have knowledge and awareness of this topic. So the education is really the key here. And when you last mentioned it's really worth the effort, could
Yes.
you maybe share a bit more what have been happened ever since you founded Happy Minds? What actually gave you this sense of achievement along the journey?
So when I initially started, it was just me and one more team member, a mental health professional who initially started connecting people in need with mental health professionals. And it was just supposed to be a 3 months long project, just something to keep me engaged whilst I'm here in Nepal looking after myself. But the way people seek for support, it was almost as if, could you provide text therapy because I'm indoors with my parents, but it's actually my parents who's causing me traumas. So I can tell that I need support, but I can't come online or I can't come visit you in person. I would rather hear the voice of needs and that's speaking for help from the people that they're reaching out. And when we were able to even customize the way we give therapy and adapt it to different ways that maybe a startup was not able to then, we still proceeded to provide and support for the people all around. And sometimes even all the clients who come into the office seeking for therapy, initially when they come in, they're very shy. Sometimes they lack confidence and they have anxieties before coming into therapy for anxiety. So they ask for assistance. Could someone come and attend me, guide me, keep me engaged because I'm very anxious? 2 months, 3 months into the therapy, they're the jolliest person on earth.
Yeah.
They feel so comfortable to come chat with us. They bring in sweets and food, and they rather like sit and chat and play games with the team. And I see that transition. That's us uplifting someone's livelihood, us encouraging someone to let them know that you investing in your well-being and personality and your confidence is worth it. And when you see all that happening all at the same time, it gives you a bigger reason to wake up with a brighter smile every day. And it's not just me, it's almost a team of 20 to 22 mental health professionals who are dedicating to the platform of Happy Minds to make sure that we do this every day. And the bigger reason is to uplift and encourage people to see that there's nothing that they can't achieve.
Yeah. It's really touched me when you see someone who had struggled mental health, that you see their eyes light up when you see their
Mhm.
life transitioning to different states to achieve transformation. This is amazing. Talking about your experience of supporting those people, I remember in one TED talk you also touch upon this notion of nowadays we always have this pressure that we have to show up happy, we have to be positive, even if we experience perhaps mental health challenges, maybe hit the rock bottom in our lives. Especially this is a strong notion also among women. Personally, you experience the mental health challenge as well. So could you share from your perspective experience, how can women show up to be more authentic and be able to relate to our feelings, even if they're negative, and
Mhm.
be able to not having this sense of constant positivity,
Mhm.
even in the face of challenges?
I think it initially starts from within. If you're not truly authentic to yourself, how could you be authentic in front of anyone else? Especially when it comes to women. I'll start with body positivity. The idea of standing in front of a mirror and being able to accept who you are as you are is very challenging for us. And it's a global data where, on an average, the body image issue starts at early as age 3 for a woman.
Wow.
So from the age of 3, we learn that we need to put makeup on because it's going to make us feel prettier. We need to dress a certain way because that's when you're going to start looking pretty and the community will rather accept you. You have to look and smile and, be presentable at all times. Whereas probably you're never going to get that job interview and things like that. But it's never how do I feel, what makes me feel pretty, and what clothes make me feel comfortable. So for me, one statement of encouragement would be first to delve inside, look within, to see if you have any insecurities or any second doubts. And if you hate a certain body part or any certain attributes towards yourself, then change the narrative of how you think and how you speak to yourself. Because there are so many body types all around and so many personalities, and everyone is unique because of this very same factor. But something that I think is rather the patriarchal society and their notion on how a woman should be if they were to put in front of a stage, then we are very quick to quickly assume that all the images from the movies and music videos that we see online, they're always with the brightest smile, red lipstick, suited, booted, and all of that, and never a very casual girl with no makeup, no heels, in a very comfortable cloth, but has the most confidence voice.
Mm.
So I think it's the image that the entire society has kept there for us. So sometimes when I watch a movie based on women and how they reflect upon the movie, how they perceive themselves. Example, the movie Barbie was a great source of inspiration as well, because when the Barbie came into the real life, she no longer felt pretty. There's this one very long monologue from the actresses as well, how they say how tiring it is to always seem and come across as pretty all the time. So I think it starts from there. It's not that you always have to seem confident, and it's okay for you to say that I'm not feeling the most confident, or oh, this is a big crowd. I just feel a little anxious, but I'm expecting good response and acceptance from you, and you can just be authentic you.
Yeah.
But before you even get there, it starts from within. So you need to accept the fact that you're feeling nervous when you're going in front of a crowd. And when you do, verbalize it, because they're humans as well. They can probably hear it in your voice. But when you've let it out there, you know that the expectations can match your energy. And then you can always go up.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. What I hear from you is really to recognize those emotions that we're experiencing, to accept it with compassion, and to be able to also express it. This is really amazing. Thank you for sharing these tips.
Thank you.
As we touch upon this topic about looking inward, love ourselves, I remember Oscar Wilde said that to love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. We often look at love as romantic love with the partner, perhaps with the kids or with friendship or with our parents. But to love ourselves is the source and the beginning of able to send love to others around us. So talking about this self-love components, I know yourself experience the challenges in this element, and you are a strong advocate in self-love and self-care. Do you have any tips to share to the women's audience, especially as I also coach a lot of women who had experienced overwhelming life and work, feeling burnt out? What had worked well with you that you could recommend?
The best one for me is fake it till you make it. Oftentimes, your brain makes you think that you can't do it. So you're very quick to negatively talking to yourself, which also lowers your confidence, self esteem. But if you just try to keep a reminder on your phone with affirmations, maybe you could download an app or just set a reminder with a small note to yourself. If not, sticky notes anywhere all around the house, back of your phone cover, on the mirrors, on the washroom doors, anywhere that you can. So you keep reminding yourself, and you're aware now that I don't have any stance to talk negatively or think any less of myself, because I am the one who wrote that note. Meaning, I deep down do believe that I am what I think I can be. So, first is to change the narrative and build a self confidence, mostly through cognitive restructuring. Sticky notes mostly comes in handy. If not, then your mobile phone reminders, calendars, alarms comes in very handy. Apart from that, I know when life gets really hectic, even to ask for an 1 hour to yourself is a lot. But that 1 hour could be amidst when you're driving from work to home. Sometimes what I do, I tend to put the camera on, and I love talking to myself when I'm driving. So at least even when someone is watching, or even if not, it seems as though I am having a two-way conversation. But actually, I'm just talking to my higher self, and it's so much fun. We blast the music, we just like, party to ourselves. And that's self care as well. You uplifting yourself, you celebrating your big and small wins, because you don't necessarily at every stages in life get people to celebrate your successes with. So yeah, as small as half an hour to 1 hour to yourself, and cognitive restructuring and reminders, changing your narrative would be the best do for me right now.
Love it. Um, Especially on the sticky notes that have things around you that remind you about how awesome you are, what have already you achieved in your life, and little by little, I think those small actions could help you rewire your limiting belief and rewrite the story, as you mentioned about the narrative.
What are your two most favorite ways to look after yourself and your well-being, if you don't mind me asking?
Wow, thank you. Thank you for asking. I love this topic. For me, my day always start first is self-care. So this is the first thing on my to-do list. Actually, I always consider my day start the day before when I fall asleep. So I consider this is the first thing I do to nourish my brain and help my body to rest. And then I wake up, I would do my morning routine, go get the sunlight in my eyes and write a 5 minutes journal and do a little bit of meditation. And then usually I go for a workout, come back, eat some breakfast, and then start my day. So as long as I put myself at the first of my day, I feel incredible. I feel confident. I feel like I can conquer all the challenges come to my way.
That sounds amazing. I think something that I really liked how you phrased it, sunlight into your eyes.
Yeah,
We forget that nature helps you heal.
exactly.
And ultimately, you need to go back to the nature.
Yeah.
So it's so overwhelming and fulfilling and so refreshing and grounding the moment you get back to your nature, even with like just a walk for 10-15 minutes, or just a sun basking early in the morning. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking. Well, Shreya, something I'm really interested to ask you and learn more is about being a female leader. I'm sure you have also many other responsibilities to juggle. Well, being a leader in this world nowadays, often there is this expectation that you always have to show up strong and competent and confident all the time. You have been very vocal about your challenges in the mental health and how you have overcome it. But perhaps this is a lifelong challenges for a lot of people and a lot of leaders as well. So from your experience, can you share a bit more? How do you show up balancing the side of being a confident and competent leader will still be able to be vulnerable and even ask support when you need it?
Very interesting question. Being a leader on its own is very difficult as it is, provided all the instabilities and unfortunate circumstances that keeps going around in the world. And making gender as a barrier within the working professional is just adds up to how things can be more difficult. But it's also about your resiliency. Sometimes it's as difficult as you not being able to find a space to rent out for your office, because the house owners don't really trust females to pay bills on time or know how to handle things. Sometimes a XYZ client is so awkward to be dealing with you because they just have never negotiated with a female. So automatically, even you being a leader, you have to forward the conversation to someone else or put them in an uncomfortable situation. So be the first mover to change the perspective for the other person. Then versus sometimes it's just something that you do and they automatically say, oh, because she's a girl. So on a day-to-day basis, It's enough that you're trying to battle the mental health stigma. I don't ever want to be my gender a adding barrier towards what I'm leading towards. So if there is anything, I am very vocal about any difficult situations in front of my team and my parents and my friends wherever relatable. Yes, being a leader also keeps you in a space where you have to always come across as tough, almost as if you've got it together. But if you just allow that space with your friends and family and your team member, then they will see you beyond a leader who is also a human, who can also have the ups and downs of the life. So you give them that space where one they can connect with you. So if they ever were to have any downfalls in their life, they feel safe enough to come and verbalize it with you. And it's also about you choosing your words correctly and going in towards your team members, letting them know that so this is how this client treated me and I don't feel comfortable. So could you back me up?
Yeah.
Or certain days when your mental health relapses and you just can't get out of the bed and you don't feel productive, just be vocal. It's only human to feel depressed from time to time, especially when you've been battling with this for the longest time. Just have that space, create it for yourself. No one else is going to assume or just automatically know that this might be something that you're going through based on your behavior. So let me come and approach you. Don't wait for other people to provide that for you. You are your own provider, so you need to build your safety home for yourself. And that is exactly how I've been doing it. For the tables that I can pick my fight, I go ahead with it and I make sure I don't take any of it personally. Even the other person, they hadn't seen another female leader before. They hadn't been under those circumstances, so I don't hold any judgment against them. I just take it as a business. When I come home, I do sit down for reflection, but I never dwell over it. Second, I make sure I have a army who's got my back, not just in terms of managing the business, but also managing each other's well-being.
Yeah, love it. Especially I love when you mentioned that we often forgot about leaders are humans too, and they also have their struggles, their ups and downs in life. Your courage to show the vulnerability to your team member, thus have in both way being able to feel this psychological safety, feel you build a safe home with your team, with your family, and have them as your back to support you, and don't take it personal when things happen maybe negatively towards you because you are a female founder. That's really courageous and really inspiring. Myself as a female leader, oftentimes in the startup I worked for, in the environment I was in, I had faced similar challenges, but I felt there are so many women like us to have the courage to challenge the status quo and to show up as human. And this is the first step towards changing. And thank you for sharing. As we're talking about being a founder, a leader, as an entrepreneur, you have achieved so much. Happy Minds has been recognized not only in Nepal but worldwide, and you have been named as one of the Forbes 30 under 30 list, which is a remarkable achievement, especially when you're this young. And I wonder, what have you learned from this experience, and what lessons that you could share perhaps with other women who are aspired to found their own business, especially in the domain of mental health care, wellness area?
Firstly, thank you for recognizing and acknowledging my work so far. I will take all the love and acknowledgement in because I need all that, because I have more and more work to do, not just for Nepalese around the world, but hopefully slowly for people all around the world. As in, sit down for self reflection and write your who's and why's, who, what, when, why, how. Because a lot of the times the journey gets really tough. eventually you will sit down to question yourself if you've taken the right decision and what are you doing? Is this even worth it?
Yeah.
Am I a single person ever enough to change the entire structure that the community has been longing on for thousands and thousands of years? But once you've sorted your who's and whys, you will never have to rely for motivation outside of you. You will know why is it that you started. You will know what was your opportunity cost to pursue your dreams, and you will know what really burns your fuel and your fire. Apart from that would be communicate, sit down with your parents, sit down with your friends, be with your close ones, and let them know that this is what you intend to do. Share your mission and vision, because eventually you will need to build an army for yourself. And during times of difficulty, during times of need, you can now get back to them asking for support. It doesn't necessarily always have to be financial support, but that too. But along with
Mm.
that, or in terms of like networking, in terms of moral support, legal advices, and things like that, because you can't do it by yourself, especially when you're trying to make an impact, when you're trying to embark on a social enterprise journey. It can get very difficult, and your brain might say that you can do it by yourself and you don't need anyone else. And as much as I would love to endorse that, just you on yourself, to change the world, your thinking might be, but you will need an army to hold back in case you fall down. And apart from that would be to never expect anything from anyone. No one owes you anything. As long as you know, that nobody owes you anything and you don't owe anyone anything, it gives you a clearer vision as to where is it that you're leading. If anyone comes along the way to give you that support, it's always an added bonus. Make sure you give them gratitude and acknowledge the support that they've given has actually impacted your well-being, your growth, your company's growth so much, and make sure that you always revert back to them. But at the end of the day, always remember, no one owes you anything, and you don't owe anyone anything. So I think these would be my best learnings as a female leader working towards the mission. And if there is anyone else who might want to pursue this as their career option, as a mental health professional or social worker, or even as an entrepreneur, then I would always request to sit down and write your passion again, your who, what, when, why, and make sure that you have people around you enough that show trust and help you to keep your passion alive. But also remember, again, that no one owes you anything. You have
Yeah.
to do the legwork.
Amazing. I love it. I especially love when you talk about how to use who and why as a source of your motivation, because this entrepreneur or solopreneur, which is what I'm doing right now, it's a long and hard journey. Sometimes can feel lonely, but having this clear mission and vision and why really helps us to always remember the reason we started this, and to come back to what you mentioned, also the very important point about building the support system, having this army of people that have your back, support you, really make a huge difference.
Yeah,
Thank you so
I'll give
much.
you an example, Ling.
Yeah.
For any professional, I think LinkedIn is a platform that you must join.
Mm.
And a lot of times, no matter how much you research and go online, just your knowledge and the data that's online is never going to be enough. So reach out to working professionals that you think could be of your support. Ask for mentorship. Maybe very well that you can't pay them, or even if you can, that's great. But just shoot a message. Just let them know this is what you're doing. Ask for 30 to 40 minutes of a short meeting because you would like an advice on this. And then just write a hopeful message with a gratitude, looking forward to having this conversation, looking forward to receiving your advice. And then it's great if they reply, equally great even if they don't, but at least you tried. So you are sending a message out there in the universe that you're looking for mentorship. So even eventually you'll get there. So this is what I mean when I say don't expect from anyone, but make sure you're constantly building yourself.
Yeah, great tips. LinkedIn definitely is a perfect platform for people reach out asking for support, to learn, to exchange and grow. Next one, perhaps, is a little bit of a heavy topic, but as we touch upon in our previous conversation, you talked about the idea of being the chain breaker of a generational trauma. I deeply resonate with these topics. And Nepal is a country that has gone through a lot of events in the recent history, including the civil war, the earthquake, even COVID-19 pandemic. All of those events had made and will continue to make significant impact on generations to come. And as someone who had living abroad in London and then now going back to your home country and learning different experience, perspective, and supporting your people, what's your experience and perspective in breaking this cycle? What can we do from an individual level to help?
I love the internet for educating us what generational trauma looks like, the impact that's brought upon us from our grandparents and their grandparents. It's as small as how different parenting styles were then, and it worked greatly for them. They might have had their own consequences, which might have created more traumas for the next generation thereon. But at least up to our generation, we know what a mindful parenting looks like. So our generation is rather more open towards seeing what might be good for the kid. Basically, not putting society's expectation before your child. And that has taken me a lot and my mom a lot to understand that this is where we need to establish our boundaries, where you and I come before society and their expectations. What about our quality of living and not society's quality of living? It also talks greatly about the belongingness of and love language. Just because my grandmom loved to shower mom with gifts and that was her way to show love doesn't mean that my mom also has to only show love through gifts, because I might need a quality time, affirmations, and that. But my mom wouldn't know that because she's never been taught. Yet alone, there was no internet when she was growing up or when she was growing me up. So I wouldn't even expect her to understand what is it that I'm seeking towards when it comes to parenting. But at least being born into this era, we know better. And when we do, make sure you go back to your mom and let her know what is good and what is not. Because a lot of the times, even when I sit around making content for my platform Happy Minds, I go back to my mom and talk about good touch and bad touch. I talk to her about like mindful communications, assertive communications, and things like that. And these are the things that she's never been taught about. No one has educated her in these topics. And bear in mind that my mom is a very well-educated woman who's also a working professional. So it just surprises me that how is generate like our mom's generation never come across things like this. Leaving the grudges aside, now that we know better, it's also our responsibility to make sure to create that space with our parents if we have, and teach them like the way that they taught us for all these many years. And if we have the space, do things differently, because it really does change the entire world. And I think that our entire personality, how we perceive ourselves, carry ourselves, is entirely linked with our childhood and their parenting. So hopefully we can have better generations for upcoming eras to know how to put their well-being first, how to be assertive, their rights, and all of that.
I absolutely echo your point on we have to reparenting our parents in a way that, of course, they raise us and they support us in so many ways, but that they also lack of so many knowledges and understanding of all the recent research and recent progression in parenting, in mental health, in communication. So I love that you
I
mentioned
love the
about.
word reparenting.
Yes, you just somehow come up this word as you talk about this. And yeah, it's also a part of my journey as well, to try to reparenting my parents, which
Mhm.
has been challenging. But just the fact that we're starting to try, we start to communicate, as you mentioned, in this nonviolent, compassionate way.
Mhm.
This is a first step of us going towards healing for
Yeah.
ourselves and for our parents.
But also just to let it out there as a reminder and more like a heads up that it can be very triggering as you're doing that because you sit down to unpack your trauma sometimes with your parents. And sometimes it's too late for them to understand or perceive or even be open to hearing a different narrative. And that's fine as well. We still try not to judge.
Yeah.
Um, but we make sure that we are aware that during the process, it can be equally triggering for you along the way. So we still prioritize our well-being and self-care, emotional regulations in place as we're trying to reparent our parents again.
Do you have perhaps one small tips you can share when these emotions are triggered or heightened? Let's say when we have a conversation with our parents on a challenging topic.
Have your safety person as a backup. I would easily say self-care, meditation, self-talks, grounding, and all of that. But a lot of the times, having someone next to you or letting someone know what you've gone through and what are your next moves as to when I have this conversation with my mom, it could go well, but if it goes bad, do I have the space to come back to you to find the comfort?
Yeah.
So having a safety net at the back of your head really helps.
Awesome. So this safety net not only support us in our low moment, but also super essential, especially when it's coming to the part of our healing journey when we
Yeah.
really need this shoulder to lean on. Perhaps even a hug would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, or
Thank you
just
so
sit
much.
together in silence. You don't even have to talk, but just to know that there is a physical person sat
Yeah.
next to me, and is giving me that space and comfort is so comforting. I think that's a privilege,
Mm.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, to hold space even when it's silence. And with that, I'm also curious as we're talking about generational impact. And now I would like to look at the future. So, what are some of the exciting projects and future goals that you have, both personally, also professionally at Happy Month?
Well, let's talk about the company first.
Of course.
I have aspirations to collaborate more across different sectors. At least here in Nepal, not every doctors and nurses have components of mental health into their curriculum, meaning they are themselves stressed, going through their personal relationship issues and all that mental health challenges, and they are continuously available for their clients. And sometimes when their clients are at distress, then it can be too overwhelming for them. Or sometimes, even when the client is asking for more support, we don't have the right tools and techniques to attend to that client because the healthcare professionals and social care workers, they have a direct impact onto a client's well-being without even probably being a proper surgeon with your gloves on, but your words and your tone and your presence, your body language speaks a lot.
Yeah.
So hopefully more collaborations within the sector of healthcare professionals and social care workers because we want to impact more lives. And just mental health professionals alone can't do it. So we want more collaborations there. We also are looking to expand outside of Happy Minds to see if we can contribute back to Nepal's mental health sector with more advanced knowledge because I don't think it has received as much attention and resources as it does. There is a global shortage worldwide, but we want to make sure that the concept of online counseling is available and eventually not just for Nepali people, and let this be a platform for just people all around the world. So that's the motive as of just yet. But my personal goals and aspirations so far, I thought I don't want to be within a box. So I'm not a mental health professional, meaning no one has ever shared me academic guidelines, so I can think on my free will. But now has come a time where people personally want to seek advice. I just meet people at random and they end up sharing and they expect words out of me. And I know that I'd rather not say things because this might go wrong and this is not my boundary. But I'm slowly looking into getting some sort of guidance and certifications that I can coach people just for their mental health only when needed, but just to impact and feel more confident towards what I'm doing. Apart from that, more personal development so that I can reach towards more international and impactful investors, not just restricting to Nepal.
That sounds amazing. A lot of exciting projects. I especially love that you personally want to pursue further learning in being a coach and supporting others. This is amazing. And I really can't wait to hear and see more success from Happy Minds. And with you sharing this many inspiring stories, Shreeya, how people can find and connect with you?
I am very active on LinkedIn. So if you just shoot Shreeya Giri or Happy Minds together along with it, I'm very easy to be found there. Or my Instagram and Facebook as well. Or simply Shreeya at happyminds.health. If anyone needs anything, wants to brainstorm anything, then I allow to give that space to the general public all around the world to get in touch with me for any well-being related concerns or matters.
Fantastic. I'll leave this contact also in the show notes so the audience can find you easily. And last but not the least, before we wrap up, I'd really love to hear your final wisdom to share to our audience. So if you could share just one insight from your journey so far to other women and the audience alike, what would it be?
It starts with you, it ends with you. So invest in yourself is something that I would love for all the women all around the world to take away from this podcast today. And if I were to revert the same quote back to you, what would you advise me on if you were to throw me a statement or a word of encouragement?
Wow, that's a very good question. I think the one that I mentioned earlier, quotes from Oscar Wilde, just really resonates with me. So I can repeat here again. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. So it goes along the similar line of the insight that you share. I love it. Start with you, invest yourself. Thank you so much. It's been really wonderful having you here, Shreeya. I really thoroughly loved our conversation, and I can't wait to continue follow your journey and your exciting news. Would love to have you here again to talk more about mental health, about entrepreneurship, also about life. So I really wishing you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you for one, finding me down on LinkedIn. Second, giving a space to talk about mental health of Nepal and among Nepalese. So thank you for giving me a space to represent.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you. I'll talk to you very soon, Shreeya.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe to my podcast. Your support means the world to me and helps more people discover those inspiring stories. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend who could use some empowerment today. This is your host, Ling. Remember, your stories is yours to write. Make it a masterpiece. Until next time, stay well.